everyone. Welcome back to the Dating After Divorce podcast. And today I am bringing you another remarriage series episode. So you're going to hear the story of a woman who has been divorced, dated again, and got happily married. Listen, ladies, I always vet my clients for happiness. So I'm not just bringing you remarriage stories. Like there are some people who are remarried and maybe not quite feeling it. I definitely vet every guest who shares her story for her level of happiness, joy, satisfaction in her second marriage. So just be confident that these ladies know exactly what they're talking about. So today I am bringing you to Kenya Battle. Kenya is a coach, is the way I look at it. So she doesn't use the word coach, but I think she's a coach. And she provides piano and vocal instruction designed to help private music teachers find less hustle and more harmony in their music lessons business. Welcome to Kenya.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing well. Please introduce yourself in your own words. Tell the people who you are, what you do, what's going on with you these days in your business and in your family.
Absolutely. It's really my pleasure for being here. Thank you for having me on. I am Kenya Battle, the chief troublemaker at Kenya's Keys, where we provide piano and vocal instruction designed to help you unleash your inner superstar. And I also help private music teachers find less hustle and more harmony in their music lessons business. And I think you asked, like, how did I get here?
Yes, like like just give us a snapshot into like your family today, your life today.
Yeah, my life today, we're a blended family of 6 kids. 2 are adults, 4 are in the home. And there's about a 9-year age difference between myself and my husband. He's older. We are both prior military. We're both self-employed, and we both live a life of service.
Love it. I love that. So you met in the military.
We did. We met in the Army. It's also the Army's fault that that last kid got here, but I don't think I can't charge Uncle Sam for that baby. But yeah, we met. I was a school teacher, public school elementary music teacher for 14 years. And what had happened was there was a point where they were firing people all willy-nilly. And at this point, I'm a single parent. I've got 2 kids that are dependent on me. I cannot afford to lose my job. And I said, I need backup. And
Mm-hmm.
that backup was enlisting in the Army Reserves. And they had it set up so I could do my service in a way that didn't keep me away from my kids in a way that would interfere with them missing school. So I was able to do all my
Mm-hmm.
training in the summertime, and I was able to just make it work most of the
I
time.
love that. How old were you at that time when you signed up for the reserves?
They called me. I was so old. They were calling me mom. When I
I believe it because I'm like, wait, when did this, how did that work? Tell me, how old were you? No, we're going to have to spill the tea today.
Okay, so when I went to basic training, most people are like 18, 19 years
Mm-hmm.
old, some even 17. When and the way they found out I was so-called old is when it's time to take your physical fitness test. You have to fill out your information and you give your card to the drill sergeant, and the drill sergeant looked up at me like, "You old." And then ever since then, everybody was like calling me mom. So there was only one lady older than me, and she was in her early 40s. I
Mm-hmm.
enlisted at 31, or I was about 31 or 32 when I enlisted, and they were calling me mom.
Wow. Well,
But
okay,
I
wait,
was
so
out.
you were 31, but there was a woman in there who enlisted at 40 something.
Yes,
Isn't that amazing? Like, and I talk to divorced women all the time, and it's always like, it's too late for me to do this. I'm too old. I've got these kids. I've got that. Because the whole point, in my mind, of being divorced is that now you can do whatever you want,
I feel like
right?
if you're still breathing, you still got time. That's how I see it.
Yes, I love that. And it sounds to me like that was part of you making the life you wanted after your divorce happened.
Absolutely, because that transition period from the time of before I was divorced, we were making like $100,000 plus as a couple, to now living on my teacher salary, and I have 2 kids who are
Mhm.
dependent on me. Talk about rubbing nickels together. There were points where I would get food for my kids, and I would wait for them to finish eating, and then I would eat what they didn't eat. So
Wow.
I'm talking about like you just make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You did that. Way
Oh
to go,
yeah.
sis. Way to go. Way to go. All right. So now let's rewind to how long after you got divorced did you start dating again? What were your thoughts about dating again after your divorce? Like, were you like, I'm going to make this happen? Or were you like, no?
Done. The word is done. The key word is done. I was done. I was not going to do this again. I was not going to get married again. I was in my head. It's just gonna be me and my kids kicking it forever. We're gonna ride till the wheels fall off kind of thing. And I
Mm-hmm.
shut parts of my heart down. I did not allow myself to be receptive to anything beyond a good time for the weekend, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And
wow.
that's what I needed. But I
Yeah.
needed to shut that part down because I had to reclaim who I was. I lost who I
Yes.
was.
Yes.
You know.
100%. And then I always I talk to people about like there's a period to be in the cave. Like for sure, it's like depending on your divorce. Now, this is not everyone's story, but like my divorce, I was blindsided. A lot of things happened. You know, you feel like you're a wounded animal, right? And you just
Oh
want to crawl
yeah.
in the cave and heal. And sometimes you need that because you get back out there with limping and wounded. Then you get eaten. You're like a snack for the next
Arr.
predator.
I needed to be able to recuperate. I needed to
Yeah.
be able to lick those wounds. I needed to be
Mm-hmm.
able to just have space for myself.
Yes, yes, 100%. And then what changed? Did things change in your mind before you met your new husband, or did he change your mind?
A little bit of both. But what made me receptive to what he was given to me was in my mind, I told myself that I deserved basically the opposite of what I had experienced before.
Yes, I
I
love that.
I deserve the opposite. I deserve the opposite of being chased from room to room and verbal abuse and financial abuse. I deserve
Mm-hmm.
someone who loved me way more than I love them. I ain't gonna front. My husband loves me more than I love him. We know this. It's okay.
It's okay. He's well aware. You're well aware, and it's working.
We know this. But I deserved that joy. I deserved to have somebody love on me in a way that
Mm-hmm.
was restorative and healing and firm and unshakable.
Yeah. How did you come to believe that? So many people don't believe that. In fact, I've had this conversation this week in coaching with someone who, and we got to the point where we realized she couldn't even visualize what it would look like to have a relationship that was different. So she was approaching dating with the same image and the same vision that she had in her last marriage. And she was like, she couldn't see it. She just didn't have the like, and because of that, she didn't want to date. And so I had to coach her through that, like, hey, you need a new vision, and that vision is possible. So, how did you come to create a vision of a relationship that looked so different from your first one?
Two things with that. Number one, I'm a dreamer. I dream things into them physically being here. And number
Mm.
two, my parents are straight comedy. They need their own show. If I'm 43, that means they're getting ready to come up on their 45th wedding anniversary next month in February. And my parents couldn't be more opposite from one another. My mother is like a 6 foot tall redhead with freckles. My daddy's like a 5'10" dark skinned man with a glass eye. I mean,
Mhm.
they are just so opposite one another. But I've always seen them have each other's backs, always. So it was
Wow.
that example.
Yes. So you had a picture of it. That's such a blessing.
Absolutely.
That's
Big
such
time.
such a blessing. Now I didn't have that picture. So like I was thinking about this recently. I was like, I don't even know. Like my family, my current family is the first functional family that I have observed from the inside in my lifetime. Like I've seen families on the outside. Who knows what's going on the inside? But in my own
Absolutely.
life, my family of origin, my first marriage, my relatives' marriages, this is the first functional one. So I had to like piece together the vision. I had to
That
create it
vision,
from nothing.
it wasn't always like a whole picture. It was just holding on to hope. It,
Mm,
it, it was just really holding on to hope because there were clear examples in my life where even my grandparents, I'm like, grandma and grandpa got divorced. I'm like, if they
Yeah.
could separate, then it was okay for me to do the same in that marriage that I left.
Mm,
I don't have to stay here.
yeah. Yeah, 100%. I love that. I do teach my clients. I have a part of my program that's called A Day in the Life. And I have them create like just, okay, what does it look like for you and your new partner to do finances? And we will create snapshots, kind of like how you said, holding on to hope. I work
Hmm.
with my clients to like create snapshots of hope, even if they have to like piece it together themselves, like I did. Or if I teach them to also pull from their environment if they've seen functional relationships, because your brain needs that in order to be able to create it. Like you just have to have something in there, that dream, that vision, that hope. You've got to have that in there. Love
And I
that.
had to release the control of it's going to happen in this particular way because it'll be the
Mm-hmm.
furthest thing from it every single time.
Yes,
Just
yes.
let it come. Just let it come.
Just let it come. I tell my clients, open up all the portals. Let's open up every single possible portal and see which one he comes in through.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. All right. So now we're ready for your story because you have a wild story. I just wanted to kind of lay the groundwork a little bit, kind of like lead the listeners into it because I don't know if anybody's ready to hear it. Anybody's ready for this. I heard Takenya's story and I was just like, oh my God, this is wild. All right. So I'm going to let you tell us how you met your husband and what happened and the cautionary tale at the end of it.
Oh man. Okay. So at this point, I'm a public school elementary music teacher who gigs in the nightclubs on the weekends and plays for church on Sunday morning. I've always been a musician.
Love
And
it.
I'm an Army reservist who I've been called to duty. And this is the one time one of very few times, where I actually did what I was supposed to do in the Army. And I secured what we call a government travel card. I had my GTC, I had my credit card that would allow
Mm-hmm.
me to make purchases, and the Army allegedly would reimburse me.
Allegedly. I love
Yeah,
that.
allegedly. And so since I had that card, they were like, all right, you're going on this assignment to the luxurious and exotic location of Fort Polk, Louisiana, where the biggest thing there is Walmart. I'm thinking, all right, cool. I'm going to go spend 2 weeks in Fort Polk and I'm going to come back home and I'll kick it with my kids again. No big deal. It'll be over in 2 weeks. And we get there and we make it to the airport, and there's this guy who's driving the shuttle from the airport to the barracks, and this same guy is in charge of the barracks. And when we make it to the barracks, I guess I must have been keeping up some kind of ruckus on the drive over. The moment I step into the barracks, the very first thing he said to me was, I can already tell you gonna be trouble.
So it sounds like that name troublemaker is kind of a thing, like everywhere you go.
I've been making all kinds of trouble for a long time. I don't mind. I don't mind. I don't mind kicking up some dust. But yeah, he was like, I can already tell you gonna be trouble. So I was like, okay, all right. But he's in charge of the barracks. The job that I was doing at that time had me working in a warehouse, and he was my supervisor in that warehouse. So, usually when people go off for 2 weeks in the military, I'm painting with a wide brush. Some people go with the intent of playing off on their significant other because they know it's in
Mm-hmm.
a space where nobody's don't ask, don't tell. Nobody's going to tell it, and the people
Mm-hmm.
who know aren't going to say anything. And so there's this expect. I swear, I thought I turned this off. All right. I'm like, I put it in focus mode, and it's still ringing with spam. Anyway, so I went there with the intent of I'm going to focus on my job, do my job, come home, and I'm working in this warehouse with this guy who's my supervisor. And I keep watching him take care of every soldier's needs. Anything
Mm.
a soldier needed, he was like, yes, let me get that for you, or let me find a way to get that for you. And I was like, let me just start paying attention there, see what this guy's doing. We ended
Mm-hmm.
up, along the way, we ended up doing this joint mission with the Air Force where we were flying on a C-130, and it was like so much fun. Oh my gosh. For those of y'all who don't know, a C-130 is like this huge military cargo plane that it can hold tanks and troops, but it was
Mm.
flying like you're riding a roller coaster.
Wow.
it dips and dives, it swerves, and I got to play the non-compliant soldier on on that excursion.
I wonder
This was
why they
training.
picked you for that. I wonder why.
I fit that one very nicely. That was the perfect casting for the non-compliant soldier. And so we were supposed to celebrate after this joint mission with the Air Force. We were supposed to kick it with the Air Force guys and girls. And one by one, everybody kind of fell off like, oh no, I'm just going to stay in the barracks. Oh no, I'm just, one by one, everybody fell off. So it ended up just being myself and my supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, let's go to Walmart because where are we? Fort, Fort Polk. There's nothing to do. So we go to Walmart and he's like, let's hold hands in the Walmart
So
and ask
this is your
people.
first date. You see, your first date is
Yes,
in a Walmart in Fort Polk.
yes. He's just like taking me around and walking up to random strangers. Don't we look good together? I'm like, this man is crazy. This man. But he kind of cute though. Let me see what happens. And so it goes from like we're in Walmart to we ended up just talking at a local burger joint, and he's just talking and telling me about his ex-wives, plural.
How
He's got
many?
two.
Two. So you're the third wife.
I am the third, final, and last
Amen.
wife. Okay. But it was something about how he was speaking about these women in ways where he never denigrated them. He never talked bad
Mm,
about them. He didn't speak ill of these women at all. And that was the total opposite of what I had experienced in my divorce and still do, because
mm-hmm.
dude's still shady. He still, he ain't
Mm,
gonna change.
yeah.
But that's something else that caught my eye. So it was him helping other soldiers, helping them meet their needs, and then it was the way that he did not speak ill of women he was no longer committed to.
Right. And I wanted to point something out because sometimes I love to like break down the stories because I know a lot of women, it's like we use other people's stories against ourselves. And someone's going to be listening to them and be like, well, if I were in the army and and I happen to luck, they think a lot of this is luck. But as a coach, I can see how you created this situation. And my coach brain is telling me, oh, she created this connection by being 100% authentic, fully embracing who she was and expressing herself at the highest volume. And there was no way the man was not going to notice her.
I was just being my doggone self.
Yes. And people don't understand how powerful that is. That is a dating strategy, ladies. Putting who you really are out in the world so that the person who loves exactly who you are can see you. I call it the visibility formula. I have a
Because let me
podcast
tell you,
episode on it.
he sees all those quirks. He sees all those the things that are less than stellar,
Mm-hmm.
and he's still here.
Yes. But it's not even that he's still here. That's what he wanted. Like
But
when you
yeah,
see, like, listen, when you said
he
you,
knew.
you told me about like being non-compliant. I am the exact opposite. I have been a rule follower my whole life. I am like color within the lines. I mean, like I am that girl. Like I've done the work to like bring out all the parts of myself, but I will never be the I will never be to Kenya battle. Like it's just never going to be. But here's the thing. Who you are it wasn't that he's tolerating it. That's exactly what he wants. And I always want to tell my clients that, like, listen, you've got to know who you really are. You have to overcome sort of like that self-esteem issue where you think who you are is less than, that who you really are isn't good enough. Got to put it out there, put out who you really, embrace who you really are, and then let the world see who you really are. So I can see that was your dating strategy, even if you didn't know it.
Absolutely, because I love saying to him, like, you married up when you met me. I mean,
So good.
I understood my value and my
Mm-hmm.
contribution in that moment, but he also knew what he wanted too, because he had written a letter to God. He had written a letter to God that outlined the qualities and what he would love to have in his next spouse. He didn't
Okay,
name
so
it.
hold
Yeah.
on a second. I'm sorry. I got to break it down for the ladies because ladies think that men are not looking for wives. This
Total
man wrote
opposite.
a list before he met you. He
He
had a
did.
list, a letter to God about what he was looking for.
Absolutely. He had this list, and I think there's about like 9 or 10 things on that list. And
Mm-hmm.
out of the things on that list, I hit 7 or 8 of them.
Love it.
So, I'm not 100% on his list, and he's probably not 100% on the list that I
Mm-hmm.
had in my head, but we 100% work well for each other.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So tell us what happened next.
Oh man. So, training's over at this point and everybody goes home. So home for me was Dallas, home for him was San Antonio, but I didn't know in that moment that he was being sent to another duty station way over in a whole nother time zone in Maryland. So
Mm.
if we met in August of 2011, August 11th, 2011, and I'm not one
Mm.
who remembers dates. I barely remember my own kids' birthdays, but I can remember August 11th, 2011. That's the day we met. We were married less than 4 months after that. So
Wow. And how long have you been married now?
10 years and some
10
change.
years. I love it. You look so happy. I remember when I talked to you, you were like just so excited. You were like, oh my gosh, he roars for the world, but purrs for me, and like how well you get
Yes,
along and the kids. I love it. Love it.
absolutely. And I gotta say, this marriage has taught me, and I'm still learning that I have to say I'm sorry sometimes.
I know, I gotta practice in front of the mirror 10 times. Say 10 times aloud fast and then go say it.
But it's also taught me that this man has the patience of Job.
Mm.
I guess Job was patient. I don't know the story. Don't get me quoting stuff out the Bible. It's going to sound like Medea because I don't know. But, even this morning, in conversation with him this morning, I was like, hey, guess what I'm getting ready to do? I said, I'm getting ready to talk about you on the podcast. But before we had even had that moment, we were exchanging how we felt about certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to remove emotion and just listen. I had to
Mm.
just listen. And that left me with like, I see what he's saying.
Yeah.
And that left me available to be vulnerable because I don't like to be vulnerable. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
As a
Mm-hmm.
single mom, we had to control a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that mode still comes back. It still comes back where I need control. But it allowed me to be vulnerable with him and express to him that I still have trauma. I,
Mm-hmm.
I still need therapy. I still have some
Mm-hmm.
healing to do. Please be patient with me so I can be a better me, so I can be a better me for you. And his
Yes.
response was, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah. So we don't need to be 100% healed from our trauma before we can meet a good person.
Absolutely not. You are still on your journey.
Yeah. And here's the interesting thing is like we act as if like a lot of people talk about, well, if I'm 100% healed, then I won't be bothering another person with the stuff I'm dealing with. But that's what marriage is. The Bible talks about bearing each other's burdens.
I have someone to help me through it. I have someone who will
Yes.
support me to the ends of the earth.
Yeah.
I have someone who will make those phone calls that I need to make. I have someone who will nag me and remind me that I still haven't done whatever it was that I said I was going to do in love. He's doing it from a place
Yes.
of love.
Right. And not taking it over either, because of course there's a line, there are boundaries there, et cetera, et cetera. But like you don't have to, because if you heal all your trauma, you show up perfect, then what happens if something happens after you get married? How will you know that this person can be there for you in sickness or in difficult times because you showed up perfect and
Or
not
in
needing
long,
anything?
how about long-term unemployment? Let's talk,
Yeah.
yeah, let's talk about that because after he separated from the military, it was well over a year before he could
Mm-hmm.
secure a job on somebody's W 2,
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
thing. So that's where he birthed his business. He was, he's not one who's just going to sit around idly by. I would never hang out with someone like that.
Mm-hmm.
But he started his own business, making sure he could still do something until
Yes.
something else came along.
Yeah. So stuff happens in marriage. And I think a lot of what we need to know ahead of marriage is how do you pick a person?
Girl, that's my mama calling. That's okay. Go ahead.
how do we pick a person that we can go through those challenges with? So you said you guys got married 4 months after you met. What
Absolutely.
happened in those 4 months? So after you met, you both went back to your stations. So you were long distance. And of course, I coach my clients on long distance relationships. In general, if you meet someone on an app, I generally discourage it on an app. Right?
And here's
But
the funny thing. He and I were both on the same dating app, but we never came across each other. We were on the same app at the same time and never
right.
matched.
On well, probably potentially because of the distance.
We probably
But you
weren't
were
ready
able
for
to
each
vet
other.
each other in
Yeah,
person first before then dating long distance.
absolutely. And during that time, he courted the crap out of me. He just consistently courted me. He
Yeah.
made sure that I had accommodations when I would come to San Antonio to see him.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, I was like, okay, I'm not getting any bad vibes, no bad juju,
Mm-hmm.
nothing's coming off. So let me introduce him to my children, who
Mm.
at that time were like 8 and 5, and I had never brought anybody around my kids.
Yeah.
It's probably about 3 years between when I was divorced and the time that I remarried. About 3 or 4 years. But I just would never bring anybody around my kids in that capacity out of respect for them. And so I'm here watching my kids interact with this man, and this man is like genuinely loving on my kids. He's not doing this for like brownie points or that
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. He had even met my parents a couple times, and I was never bringing people around my family like that.
Yeah.
So we talked marriage, we had talked
Mm-hmm.
it, and I like had given him my information, and I finally had the
Did you
opportunity.
know that you wanted, like, when did you know like he was like your person? You know.
When I considered when I considered giving up my weekend persons. I'm gonna keep it all the way real with you. And I was like, you know what?
No, it took me a minute to like latch onto what you were saying. Okay, so you were dating multiple people
And
in varying
everybody was aware.
capacities.
Everybody was aware. That's
Okay.
yeah, you gotta be clear. You gotta be upfront so people can decide if they want to hang or not.
All right. And then when you were like, oh wait, I don't want to talk to these other people anymore.
I don't. I'm
Love
done. Like,
it.
I'm considering like I don't need this anymore. This doesn't serve me anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And how did you know it was safe? Like, because I think it's always that moment where you meet someone and because you mentioned you didn't get any bad vibes. Because a lot of that is just safety, being safe to be with this person, being safe to trust this person. A lot of what happened in our first marriages was that we trusted the wrong people too early, too long, all the things. What made this feel different? What made this feel safe in a real way? How did you know, this is a safe human being to bring around my children to potentially commit to?
His sincerity.
Mm,
He was genuine. His integrity,
mm,
his ethic as I see him work in soldier mode, his
mm,
consistency, his caring,
mm.
his attention.
Love it.
All those things let me know, like, you can't keep that charade up forever.
Right. You can't fake being a caring supervisor to 200 soldiers. Like that, you can't fake that.
Absolutely. And I was like, okay, maybe I could see myself getting married again.
Yeah.
Possibly.
So good. All right, let's get to the marriage. Tell us how
Well,
that happened.
Thanksgiving holiday was coming up, and he was flying me out because at this point he had relocated to Maryland. He was flying me out to meet his family, and I got to meet his sisters, brothers-in-law, and nieces and nephews, and his mom, who kicked everybody's butt playing checkers. I don't think
Hmm.
I've recovered from that just yet. They burned the turkey. I mean, just like lots of good stuff.
Yeah, just
Good,
normal family.
normal Cajun turkey type things going on. And so having met his family, they accepted me. Everybody, I was just so welcoming, so warm and welcoming.
Mm,
And we were coming close to the end of the Thanksgiving break, and his family had all left, and so it was just he and I there. And he was like, "Hey, let's go to church." Now, if anybody knows me personally, I'm only at church for one reason. They're paying me to be there as a musician. They're paying me to be there as a musician. So I'm like, yeah, sure, let's go to church. I get dressed for church and he's like, hold on, come in the living room. I want to show something to you. I'm like, what are you talking about? He proposes.
Oh my gosh. So it's just both of you in the home.
It's
And
just
he
he and I.
proposes. I love it.
He
Got the ring.
proposes. I got that ring. I was posting it on Facebook. Y'all,
Oh
I'm
my gosh.
engaged. They're like, "Ooh, girl, Takenya, you play too much. You stop lying, stop lying." But it escalated from there.
So now at this point, like, were you like Facebook official? Like, both of you? No. Okay.
No,
Okay.
not Facebook official. We just like, he's him, I'm me.
Yeah.
I ain't put my business out there like that. And so it's time for us to go to church. And he was like, hold on, somebody was going with us to church, but they got lost. Let me go get him. I'm thinking he's getting a homeboy of his. He goes to get a wedding officiant. The guy got lost coming to the house in Maryland. So the same day he proposed, we actually got married.
So did you
Same day.
actually go to church? Like, did the
Never made
officiant?
it.
Oh,
Mm-mm.
he married you at home.
At the house in Maryland,
I'm
yeah, in
talking
the
as if
living
that's
room.
the shocking factor here. I'm just trying to get all the details. So he proposes while you're visiting his family for Thanksgiving, hires an officiant, brings him to the house to marry you. Okay, so what's
Same
going on
day.
with you as all this is happening?
I'm like, ooh, what is my daddy gonna say? Ooh, what is my mama gonna say? Uh-oh. What am I gonna tell my kids? Like,
Mm-hmm.
just that whole like, uh-oh, because there's no walking back from this I do.
Yeah.
I can't be like, psych. Just kidding. You know, there's no walking back from that. So
But
that
you
was that.
did you have any doubts that like, oh wait, am I making a mistake? Well,
Some
other
of
than what they would think.
my thoughts were like, if this man isn't for real,
Mm-hmm.
if he is not for real, if I'm making a mistake, if this is not what I'm supposed to be doing, if I just like this better be it.
Mm-hmm.
This better be it. I ain't doing this no more. I meant it the last time and I mean it this time too.
Mm-hmm. What
I'm
if it
not doing
hadn't
this
been though?
again.
What if it hadn't turned out right?
I was in a place where I could stand on my own just fine.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I love that because it was like, not that I'm, who cares what I advocate? Not that I'm saying, hey, let's marry the next person. And then if it doesn't work out, it's fine. Right. But I also love that you were like, no, I think this is right. I have all of this, but I'll be okay even if I make another mistake.
Absolutely. I can stand. Look, I'm one who will go for it.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
will go for it and then figure it out later.
No, and here's the
Yeah.
thing. Sometimes the fear of making that mistake again keeps a lot of people from ever getting started.
I
Like,
just
I have to make sure it's right. And I have worked with people who will like swipe left on 99 out of 100 profiles because they're like, no, it has to be just right. And I'm like, you can't meet someone that way.
I just needed somebody who could add to, and he was adding to.
Mm-hmm. You weren't leaning on him. He wasn't going to become your whole life. He wasn't like your source of income, your source of joy, your source of connection. He was adding to the
Absolutely.
fact that you already had everything you needed.
He was adding to, and as long as he was
Mm,
adding to, I was okay.
I love it. In the coaching world, we call that self-trust, where you
I,
have your own back. Like, I
yes.
have my own back. And that means that I can, it's sort of like when you're a little kid and your dad is coming with you to school to talk to the teacher about the bully.
Oh yeah.
But now, as an adult, you are that person walking behind yourself into the world to face whatever comes, not hiding away. So I
I
know this is
couldn't.
pretty radical, but I love it because that's that attitude of having like the courage and the bravery to step out and take risks is what's needed to create that best life.
You have to take calculated risks. You have
Mm-hmm.
to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, who's content to stay exactly where they are right now today?
Yeah. And I love it because you were in the cave, but you didn't stay in the cave. It's almost like you were like, okay, I'm in the cave right now. Shut everything off, close the doors, lock them tight. And then you were like, okay, I'm good now. I'm stepping out of the cave. Let's go. You didn't waste
Yeah,
any time.
I put one toe out there, peeked out, had a little sunshine hit my face. Say, okay, I kind of like this. All right, let's go whole body now. I mean, you calculated risks. Is it worth
Mm-hmm.
it to me? What's the, people do like what it cost benefits analysis, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But this time, we talking about my life, we talking about my kids.
Mm.
Ain't no playing about either one of those.
Yeah.
And as
Yeah.
long as he was adding to, I was content.
I love that. So I know we wrote down, we're like, okay, we're going to say, hey, we said we were going to add a disclaimer here that please do not try this at home.
Let me tell you why. Because the day he proposed and the day we got married, which was all the same day, was the same day that I left going back home to Dallas.
Yeah.
So
So you
we're
woke
at
up married in your own home by yourself.
I did. I was like, I got married and I went back home to Dallas, and he's in Maryland for 3 years.
Wow.
So not only is this now like a long distance relationship in the beginning where it's just between Dallas and San Antonio, that's like 4 or 5 hours because Texas
Mm-hmm.
is big. Now it's a long distance marriage, and we're talking about changing time zones
Mm-hmm.
for 3 years. That's how we were. And so he would try to get assignments in the same places that I would be. Like if he knew I was going to Wisconsin, he would try to go to Wisconsin. If he knew I was going to Utah,
Mm-hmm.
he would try to go to Utah. And that's what was working for us. And that actually helped me transition from being in single parent mode to
Mm.
now being like, oh wait, but I am married. I
Yeah.
don't have to do everything all by myself anymore.
Mm. And you were with a person, it sounds like, who stepped up to do these things with you.
Absolutely, because there were times again where I would be unable to get to my kids because the army
Mm-hmm.
has sent me somewhere. But you know
Mm-hmm.
who can take care of it? Their now stepfather can. Hey, can you go up to the school and tell my child he better get some act right in his life? Just
Yes, yes, I love that. And I've talked about when I ended up having surgery in the middle of the pandemic. And then my daughter, like, as I was having surgery, they said that my daughter, who was going to college, I was supposed to recover for 2 weeks and then take her. But then they imposed a 10-day quarantine on the campuses. So like my recuperation time, she needed to be in school like 2 days after I got out of surgery. And I was like, okay, stepdad. And he was more than happy. Like he did all the things, everything like I would have done, maybe even better in getting her situated in college in the middle of a pandemic. So it's like people are always like, well, I want to make sure I'm taking care of my kids. I don't want to date again. I'm like, well, maybe with the right person, it could be better with that person than with just you. Not that there's anything wrong with being a single mom. Like I
look
love
here,
that too.
y'all. Look here, look here. There's 4 kids in this house, and they all have, of those four, all three of them have different start times for school, but all 4 of them are at 4 different schools. And
Oh,
they
wow.
ask me when's the last time I've taken a child to school. Not in 2022.
I love it. I love it.
I've got somebody to tag team and bear that, I don't want to call it burden, but bear that weight with me.
Mm-hmm.
I
Share
don't
the
have,
load.
ask me who does all the cooking in this house.
What? See,
It's
that was one
not
thing
me.
that wasn't on my list. And until today, I'm just like, dang it, if I had just put that on my list.
It wasn't on my list either. But let me tell you, all I needed was a good old country boy, because he be fixing some good old country meals. I'm just saying.
Oh, so good. And so one of the things in my program that I walk women through is what I call milestones, which is what you skipped. So my question is going to be, how did you like do that? Which is like when you now decide to go exclusive with someone and you're committed and you're working towards like either getting married or moving in together, whatever commitment looks like for you. There's certain conversations that need to be had. Lots of conversations that we didn't have before our first marriages. And then we realized should have had that conversation. So how did you guys navigate already being married and then having to talk about how to combine finances, how to parent children, where we're going to live, how we're going to manage our families, where we're going to spend things, like all of those things. How did you do that?
So I had some insights on his parenting with with how he was with my own children. Matter of
Mm-hmm.
fact, since we had been, while we were married, I think it was probably about 4 years in, we discovered together that he actually had another child that he didn't know about. So,
Wow.
I mean, like when I say we have been through some things as a married couple,
Mm-hmm.
we have been through some things, but I don't, there's nobody else I'd rather go through those things with.
Yes, that's so good.
We definitely skip some steps. And so when it comes to discussing finances or parenting styles, we're complementary to one another in those
And
areas.
I love the word complimentary. I know what that means. We complement each other. Basically, we're opposites.
Yes, we're opposites. And so, what we do is we do have some internal checks and balances, some
Mm.
limits, some
Mm-hmm.
boundaries on there when it comes to kids, because there's 3 kids who came through me and
Mm-hmm.
3 kids who came to me.
Mm-hmm.
So with those 3 who came through me, I can touch, I can put hands on.
Mm-hmm.
Those 3 that came to me, I'm not their mama,
Mm-hmm.
but their father is here, and their father will apply whatever he, sees fit. I'm not advocating spanking. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just
But
saying that,
but the
yeah,
discipline, like like you said, different discipline styles, different money, even money. Like one of the things, because we have older children, is like who's giving who what amount of money for what.
yeah, because we
And
just
some
had
things that
one.
I pay for my kids that he, and there's some things he pays for his a kid that I like. I don't. I'm like, I'm not paying money. I am not giving you money for that. That's not my
I'll
problem.
I'll slide, like, and I'm using air quotes, his kids. I'll slide his kids some money if I'm like, ooh, that baby look like she having a hard time or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
and I'll like, hey girl, here's some cash, check your cash app, kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. So it's like I'm momming the other kids,
Right,
but they still have moms. I know my role.
right.
I'm momming, but their moms thank me for momming their kids.
Well, because of the way you do it. Like, so did you learn all of that on the fly as things happen and then talk about them, or did you guys decide ahead of time?
Some things just kind of met us head on, and there's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
it's like the finding out about the one who she just graduated from Valdosta State. We found out
Right.
about her when she was like 16.
Wow.
So it was like, well, okay, well, what are we gonna do to make sure you get to know her? When are you going to see her? Kinds of things,
Right.
So it's a supportive thing. There's one that's in the house now who's 13.
Mm-hmm.
Her mom and I were in the same unit in the military. Now, her mom had moved on to where she was stationed in Alaska, but that baby came here to visit for summer last year, and she just never left.
I love it.
Like I'm like, let me go ahead and enroll this baby in school because
Yeah.
it don't look
Because
like
you
she's
know,
going home.
like, surprises do happen. Like, and it's interesting in my second marriage, I'm the one who's brought some surprises where I had a custody arrangement with my ex where the older children lived with me, younger children lived with him. And then just in the last year, that's changed. So now we've gone from being empty, we were empty nesters for 2.5 months last fall. And now we're full on parenting 2 teens again in the home. And it just
Teenagers,
happened.
I'm not cut out for it. I don't know how I'm doing it. There's
Well,
an
you're doing
18
it
year
so
old,
well.
15-year-old, 13-year-old, and 7-year-old in this
All
house.
right. I love it. I love your story. I mean, what I'm hearing is that, hey, you can't control everything, you make it work. But the key is to make sure you're doing it with the right person, the person who
Absolutely.
works with you, the person you fit with, the person who's safe. I hear a lot of safety as you describe how you guys work through just all the normal things that come with blending a family. I read the statistics, something about it takes 7 years to actually fully blend a family and feel like a family. I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't made it 7 years yet.
I would probably say that's pretty doggone accurate because the two who came, the 2 kids I had from my previous marriage, they have a father. So they have they have a father, and
All right, so Kenya is making faces here, y'all. You can't see her, but I'm just gonna let you know.
my eyes were rolling, y'all. My eyes rolled all the way back like 2 time zones or something. But they have a father, and that's a relationship that it's not my place to, um, I'm here to protect and assist my
Mm-hmm.
children. And
Yes.
so my oldest two, I think, had the hardest time because they have a dad. They
Mm-hmm.
here's somebody else who is taking that dad title and doing
Yeah.
dad things, but to
Mm-hmm.
them, they did not see him as their dad because they had
Mm-hmm.
a dad.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And
yeah.
that's it takes work to define those roles while keeping doors open if the children ever want to change that rule. Because that's the thing. If you define it too rigidly, then as they grow and get closer, create more connection, then they want to change things. And that's why you don't want it to be too rigid, but you also want it to be defined so that as the adult, you kind of know where your boundaries are. It's really it takes a lot of flexibility, a lot of emotional adulthood.
And
Being with the
respect.
person who is mature, respect both for the children and the other person. So good. I
And
so admire what you've created.
I gotta say, it's definitely unique.
Yes. So, what is sort of if you were to say, "Hey, here's where here this is the next step for our family," or this is where we're trying to go in the next year or two, either in your marriage or in your with the kids. Like, just tell us, give us a little sneak peek into like what your vision is for your family and your marriage in the next year or two.
Oh, I've actually been writing these things down in my journal. Let's see how long that lasts. Um,
Once you write it down, it's coming to pass. That's the way I see it.
I mean, he wrote himself a whole new wife, so I mean,
Yeah.
time will tell. I think I see us later on down the line becoming those empty nesters. Yes, the
Mm-hmm.
youngest is 7, the oldest is 30. But I do see us becoming those empty nesters. I'm the one, we love traveling. We just love each other's company.
Mm.
So we're going to have more time to spend with each other outside of our weekly breakfast meetups.
Yes.
And the kids will be fine.
They will.
They're all, we're all going through some levels of something. But in the end, everybody's going to be just fine.
I love it. I love it. Kenya, thank you so much for sharing your amazing, exciting, and unique story. I know it's going to help so many women who are listening about like, how do I take a risk? How do I put myself out there? How do I just like let loose and
You got to let
stop being
go.
so scared? I love
Oh,
it.
yeah.
You're an inspiration. Please tell people where they can find you. All of your links will be in the show notes, but for those who just want to jot it down and look you up immediately, please spell out your social media handles
Sure.
for the listeners.
So if you're looking for music lessons, go to Kenya's Keys, Ken as in Nancy, Yas as in Sierra, Keys as in Sierra. If you're looking for coaching as a private music teacher, visit keyofeasy.com.
All
And if you want
right.
to follow me on Instagram, it's at Kenya's Keys.
Awesome. Make sure you all look to Kenya up, follow her, share her story. This is so inspirational. If you have other friends who are single or who are divorced, make sure they listen to this episode because it is so far. I don't want to say it's my favorite because I know all my other guests are listening, but one of my favorites, one of my favorite episodes. Thank you so much for sharing yourself with us today. Appreciate your time. And for everyone listening, thank you for your time and attention. And I will see you next time.